Hey, what's up everybody? James with the Stack Junkies here, and we're dropping a little something different for you guys this week. You're going to notice the gameplay footage in the background, but that's going to go away here shortly, because this isn't a gameplay video. I know we normally drop those on Thursdays, however this week we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're trying to expand the channel a little bit, get a few more videos out for you guys, a little bit more content, and one of the ideas we've had is deck techs, deck theories, things like that. And this is going to kind of be a test of that. So if you dig the video, definitely leave a like, comment down below. If you dislike this video, leave a dislike, comment down below, and we'll, adjust things from there and hopefully get some better content for you guys. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video with the Combat Engineer deck. Now, for those of you who don't know, many moons ago, I was in the United States Army as a combat engineer. As a matter of fact, if you look right here, you'll see Babyface James as I graduated OSET, which is one station unit training outside of Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, back in 2008, I believe, if I remember correctly. Now, what did I do while I was in the service? Well, here's what the United States Army says. As a combat engineer, you'll work quickly and skillfully to help soldiers navigate well on combat missions by constructing bridges, clearing barriers with explosives, and detecting and avoiding mines and other environmental hazards. You provide expertise and come up with quick and creative engineering solutions, constructing fighting positions, fixed and floating bridges, and obstacles in defensive positions. Now that's an overall view of what a combat engineer does. But when I was it was the tail end of the surge, and when I went to Iraq, basically what we did was we drove around and waited for this. Fucking beautiful. That was an IED that we found en route one day and blew in place. Thankfully we caught that one before it caught us, but that's not how it always happened. Sometimes you didn't see the IED until it was a bit too late, and next thing you know, night is turning into day, and this happens. This is a picture of one of our vehicles after it got blown up during a mission. Basically, the insurgents took 8 of these guys, which is a 155mm artillery shell, daisy-chained them all together, buried them under the road, and then made it go kablooey as the truck drove over it. Thankfully, none of my brothers were killed or really hurt all that bad during this explosion, so thankfully we got lucky there. Now that we've got all this exposition dump out of the way and a brief history on me, let's move on to the point of this video, which is the Combat Engineer deck, otherwise known as the ESSAYONS deck. Now, a couple of things concerning this deck that I want to go over before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, so to speak. Number one, the deck had to be red and white. Red and white are the regimental colors for the engineers, so the deck was automatically Boros. Number two, I wanted the deck theme to be around the military and combat engineers. So, with that in mind, I chose a bit of a passage out of the doctrine for utilizing combat engineers, and I'm going to read to you the basically 3 rules that I decided to use to build this deck. And those would be clearing terrain obstacles, overcoming trenches and ditches, opening routes for armored fighting vehicles, constructing roads and bridges, route clearance. Planting landmines, digging trenches and ditches, demolishing roads and bridges. Planting landmines, digging trenches and ditches, demolishing roads and bridges, urban assault breaching. Now that was pulled directly from the doctrine paperwork and books, without getting too deep into what all those are and stuff. And as you can see, planting landmines and doing a lot of explosives is a very big thing for combat engineers. What is nice about these rules is that I was able to build this deck once I started theory crafting it to actually be functioning. So it's a theme deck that works. Now, how it works is basically I kingmake. This deck cannot win. I can sit down at the table, and I guess I could technically win if you allow me to swing at you for 100 plus turns across the table, because the highest power creatures are 3. However, this plays really nicely into kind of taking real world and melding it into Magic's world using Magic cards. Clearing terrain obstacles, overcoming trenches and ditches, opening routes for armored fighting vehicles, constructing roads and bridges, route clearance, yada yada yada. Well, what can we use to kind of make that happen, so to speak, in Magic terminology? So we're going to go up here, and for example, one of those things that we can use to make that happen would be Power Stone Minefield. Power Stone Minefield is a 2 colorless, red and white enchantment. It says whenever a creature attacks or blocks, Power Stone Minefield deals 2 damage to it. Or we also have Light Minefield. It's a 2 colorless, 2 white enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creatures attack, Light Minefield deals damage to each of those creatures equal to the number of attacking creatures. Now yes, these do hurt whoever I'm trying to help a little bit if they're swinging. But one of the things about this deck is that it's also got a little bit of a chaos aspect to it. Kind of reflect the battlefield and how things run. So what's nice about the two cards that I just read to you, Light Minefield and Power Stone Minefield, is that they both fall under what I want this deck to do really well. Number one, they've got Minefield in the name. I know how to, it's been a long time, so I probably forgot a lot of stuff, but I did get trained on how to clear minefields and place mines, utilize mines, things like that. So that was great. That was fit into perfect for the theme. It also works really well for protection and also just general disruption of the battlefield as we go along. Now, as I said, the deck is Boros, and the commanders, which are two, we are using partner commanders, are going to be Jessica, Thrice Reborn, and Levio, Oathsworn Sentinel. Now, I went with both of these for a couple of reasons. I kind of went back and forth on several of these commander ideas over the years. One, Jessica Thrice Reborn is a commander that doesn't really fit into the military theme. With that being said, she does fit into the helping and king-making side of things, which is the reason why I chose her. She doesn't really have any military going on, but we're going to say she's a commander, so we'll just call her a civilian working the sidelines, but that's, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a stretch, but it's the only stretch in the deck, so hey. Basically, what Jessica can do is she enters the battlefield with a loyalty counter for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. That's great, but we really don't care. What we care about is her 0. Choose target creature until your next turn. If that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. This is great. I get to choose one creature, especially if I got somebody who's going Voltron and that's the person that I want to win, that is now going to be doing triple damage from what they were doing previously. That's insane, and that fits perfectly into the affecting the battlefield of plan that this deck wants. Next, we've got Levio, Oathsworn Sentinel. He is a 1 colorless and a white. He is a human knight, and he's a 2/2. He has pay 1 and a white, choose another target creature. Its controller may exile it with an Aegis counter on it. Also has pay 2 and a white, tap, return all exile cards with Aegis counters on them to the battlefield under their owner's control. Now basically I chose him because 1, he fits into the theme, human knight, and we don't have knights anymore, but it's still a military unit from history. But 2, and more importantly, this allows me to help protect certain creatures from board wipes or single target removal or whatever the case may be, whether they're my own or somebody else's. So this allows me to manipulate the battlefield a little bit more and be a bit more helpful as far as whoever I am looking to have win the game. So that's the reason why I went with these two commanders, and once again they fit into the Boros theme and it works out really well. In theory, I haven't actually tested out this deck. I'm still waiting for the cards to come in. So you guys will be seeing this deck on the channel definitely within the next week or two, because I'll be doing a lot of playtesting and messing around with it. Now let's get into some of the quick meat and potatoes of some of the cards that I chose and why I chose them. The deck definitely runs better, and well, I say that this is all theory crafting, remember, but the deck will definitely be more influential and effective than I was expecting for a theme deck. I mean, this is the first time I've really truly built a theme deck, so I was thinking it was going to be rather weak, and in a way it is, but it's also very powerful with the things it can do. So a couple of the theme cards that we have in here, I want to point out this card right here is a prime example. Dwarven Demolition Team. It is a 2 colorless, 1 red for a 1/1 dwarf. It says tap to destroy a wall. How many times do you come up against walls? I mean, I know the wall decks are out there. We had somebody, Shane, in our play group. He had it for a while. He had a walls deck. But you don't see walls, and it's not a great card. I mean, this is just a prime example of a card that would automatically be cut if I was optimizing and tuning this deck. However, it's a theme deck, so it's beautiful. It hits so many of the themes. Dwarven Demolition Team. The artwork has a massive explosion going on in the background with one of the dwarves being way too close to that explosion and getting a little rattled for it. The artwork is beautiful. What is it called? The story text, which is I'm in major brain fart. I can't think of what that's called. But flavor text. There you go, James. Good job. The flavor text is amazing. So that's an example of a prime candidate for this deck. Next, we've got Goblin Crater Maker. He's in there because Crater. Goblin Engineer. Kaboomist. Goblin Kaboomist is amazing. It's a 1 colorless, 1 red for a 1/2 Goblin Warrior. And he says, at the beginning of your upkeep, put a colorless artifact token named Landmine onto the battlefield with Pay a red, sacrifice this artifact. This artifact deals 2 damage to target attacking creature without flying. Then flip a coin. If you lose the flip, Goblin Kaboomus deals 2 damage to itself. Another perfect candidate, plus it has a token producing ability named Landmine. Freaking Landmine! I played with those. That's awesome. This is amazing. So anyways, we're going to keep going through here real quick and kind of talk about Keldon Firebombers. Got a bomb in the name. Varchild's War Riders. Now this one was a little bit of an interesting include. Varchild's War Riders, if I could speak, excuse me, I haven't had enough coffee yet. It is 1 colorless and 1 red for a War Rider. This is a very old school card, so the creature type is a little bit weird. Anyways, it's got Trample and Rampage 1. Cumulative Upkeep. Put a survivor token into play under target opponent's control. Treat this token as a 1/1 red creature. Now everything in there doesn't really matter other than the fact that it has a cumulative upkeep of putting a survivor token into play under opponent's control. This allows me to, 1, further the strategy of helping somebody. 2, it fits the theme with War Riders in the name. And 3, it's just a really good way to give somebody some blockers or maybe some attackers if they're going wide weenie and they got, you know, if they have no way to put out a coat of arms or something like that. So the only one that's also kind of a stretch here is Humble Defector. Humble Defector is a human rogue, costs 1 and a red. Tap, draw 2 cards, target opponent gains control of Humble Defector. Activate only during your turn. This is specifically in here because I can tap it, draw, as well as give it to the person I want to win, and they can draw as well, and they can give it back to me. I'm going to go with Human Rogue as Special Forces. That's the best I can do. We'll just call them some Special Window Lickers, and then kind of go from there. I don't know if this card's going to stay in here. I know Wedding Ring from the Crimson Vow set is going to come in here, but that's really the one that I don't know if it really fits, but we're going to keep it in for now. Now, quickly, let's just go over some of the ways that we're going to kind of control the battlefield. We've got a lot of single target removal in here, with a little bit of board wipes and stuff like that. But one thing that Boros really excels at is enchantment and artifact removal. And I have artifact removal in spades. We've got Artifact Blast. Counters any artifact as it's being cast. Aura Blast. Destroy target enchantment. Draw a card. We've got cards like Path to Exile, Generous Gift, Red Elemental Blast, Pyro Blast. Settle the Wreckage. This one's in here because it's a wonderful board wipe that really feels like it fits the theme. And also I can use it in kind of a sneaky way, I think. If the person that I want to win is a little bit behind on lands or needs a little bit of a ramp or whatever, I can be like, hey, swing, and then I can cast Settle the Wreckage and they can go and get basic land cards out of their deck and kind of ramp a little bit from that way. I don't really know if this will ever happen, but it's just something that I thought about, something interesting to think about. Got Shrapnel Blast, another one that's not that great. It's a 1 and a red for an instant speed. As an additional cost to play Shrapnel Blast, sacrifice an artifact. Shrapnel Blast deals 5 damage to target creature or player. Now that has been errated to any target. With that being said, not a big fan. You don't see this card very often because it's not the greatest. There are better cards out there that do better things quicker and more efficient. However, Shrapnel Blast, what happens when something blows up? It creates shrapnel. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I had to have it in here. We've also got, you know, Swords to Plowshares and your usual red things like Deflecting Swat and Pyroblast, as well as Reverberate, and cards like that to really kind of manipulate the battlefield as people are casting things. If I want to go, say, maybe change the target to protect a person's creature as it gets Swords to Plowshares by somebody else, or maybe they're attacking the guy that I want to win, or gal, whoever it might be, and I want that creature to stay around. I can change things around. So it all fits into the counter mobility and just manipulation of the battlefield, so to speak. We've also got, you know, your usual Wheel of Misfortunes, Wheel of Fates in here. I do believe the deck is a little light on card draw. We're going to have to fix that and work on that, but that's not a big deal. It's just kind of a tweaking thing. Outside of that, we've got a few other cards here that I want to point out, one of which is Engineered Explosives. We are going to talk about that real quick because it is my favorite card in all of Magic the Gathering. Engineered Explosives is an X-cost artifact spell. It has Sunburst. This enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. Then you can pay 2, sacrifice Engineered Explosives, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Engineered Explosives. Now, not that great overall. I mean, there's definitely cards that do what this card does, and they do it better. But it has Engineered Explosives, and the bloody artwork looks like some weird inversed disc-shaped crater charge going off. I mean, I just love this card, so it had to go in here. And part of the reason why I'm running so many Felwar Stones and Forbidden Orchard, Exotic Orchard, things like that, is because I want to get as much color as I can into this when I cast it. That way, when it goes off, it can, when I do pay 2 and sacrifice it, it can destroy as much as possible. So we've got a lot of ways to make different colored manas in this deck. A few other cards that you're not going to see, I've never come across in all my time playing Magic. Magma Mine. It's a 1-cost artifact. Pay 4, put a pressure counter on Magma Mine, tap it, sacrifice it. For each pressure counter on it, Magma Mine deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Flavor text, boom. I mean, come on. It's not a great card. It's quite shitty, if we're being really honest. But the theme, also boom. Ah, beautiful. Beautiful. So outside of that, that's kind of what we're looking at. And as far as what the deck's trying to do, I mean, I think you got a pretty good idea of what I have going on here. I just want to go over a few lands real quick, one of which is the Forbidden Orchard. I love this card. You see it in CDH a lot, but you don't see it in the wild very often. I don't think I've ever seen it, but maybe twice. For those of you not familiar, Forbidden Orchard is a land. It has tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Whenever you tap Forbidden Orchard for mana, put a 1/1 colorless creature token onto the battlefield under target's opponent's control. That's probably why you don't see it very often, because it's an exotic orchard with an extra step. However, in this deck, it works beautifully, because now I can start giving out more blockers or attackers, or whatever the case may be, for whoever it is that I would like to win. We're also running War Room, because obviously we're in a war, and it just makes sense. Slayer's Stronghold. This will never be used on my own creatures, okay? Slayer's Stronghold, for those of you who don't know, is a land that says tap, add 1 to your mana. Also, you could play a red and a white. Tap it, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains vigilance and haste until end of turn. That is huge. That is huge for somebody else. Somebody else drops a creature. I go, okay, I tap Slayer's Stronghold. I target that creature immediately gets haste, and they get to start doing things a little bit faster. So that's going to be used on opponents quite a bit. Or the person that I want to win. Also, we've got things like Battlefield Forge, Blast Zone, and Blasted Landscape, a cycling card that you don't ever see, but look at it. It's beautiful. And it's called Blasted Landscape, so I had to go in here. So that's just the general overview of what the deck's going to do, kind of some of the cards in the deck, the thought process behind the deck, and why I built the deck and where I was coming from and the ideas for this deck. The deck does have an average CMC of 2.52, and the average card cost is 2, which means this deck is going to be fairly quick and able to stay in the game, even in those late game scenarios, as long as I got the card draw going, because all my stuff is cheap. It's not that hard to cast things. Also using practically no tap lands, because tap lands are horrendous. Even in a deck with a theme, that can't win. I don't like tap lands. I'm not putting them in here, with the exception of Evolving Wilds. Now, I normally don't put Evolving Wilds into my decks. I'll usually put in the more expensive and better fetches. Evolving Wilds is going in here because one of the things that combat engineers do is create fortifications and change the battlefield as they go. The land itself gets changed. Evolving Wilds kind of depicts that and shows that I am shaking this land and turning it into this land. So that's why it's in here. But once again, I want to reiterate, don't put tap lands in your decks if you can help it. Put in, fast lands, put in your check lands, put in your dual lands, things like that. And when I say dual lands, not the old school dual lands, the original ones, because that's a whole conversation on another day. But there you go. That's what we're looking at. That's the deck that I have going and that you will be seeing on the channel here, hopefully within the next week or two, just kind of depending on when the rest of the cards get in and stuff. I'm only waiting on a handful. Hope you guys enjoyed this content. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions or whatever, definitely leave them down in the comments. I would be very interested to hear anybody's thoughts, or if you know of any cards that I've missed. Like I said, I've been working on this for about 2 years now. And this is what I've come up with. So there's definitely cards that I missed. I mean, there's a lot of cards in Magic the Gathering's history, so it's hard to make sure I have everything. Or if you have an idea of maybe tweaking things to where to work more effectively and efficient for what I want. Whatever. Comment, all that fun stuff. Definitely let us know. I would be very interested to hear from you guys and hear the thoughts of the community. So that's what we got going on. We will have some more videos for you guys next week. This video is dropping a little bit weird. It was supposed to drop yesterday for Veterans Day, but due to YouTube being really slow, we're getting it out the next day. So that's partially on me for bad time management and on YouTube for just being special.